The village of Ayoka buzzes with the sounds of daily life, but Ayoka. A teenage girl sits by a calm river at dawn, her face reflecting sorrow. Behind her, a lively village contrasts her isolation, with vibrant market stalls and people in colorful traditional attire. The distant father, man with a stern face, walks away from a modest hut, ignoring his 7-year-old daughter, who watches him with longing from the doorway. The whispering wind. Ayoka stands alone under a baobab tree as the wind swirls unnaturally, carrying faint whispers. The sunset casts a golden glow over her perplexed expression. The divine encounter. A glowing, ethereal figure resembling an ancient deity appears before Ayoka in the moonlit forest. Ayoka kneels in awe, her surroundings bathed in soft light, the mark of the gods. Ayoka examines her hand, which now bears a glowing, intricate symbol. The background shows her humble home, dimly lit by a lantern. The unwanted gift. Ayoka struggle to control a sudden burst of wind that lifts leaves and dust around her. Villagers nearby look on in fear. An elderly seer dressed in traditional attire points to Ayoka, her eyes wide with recognition, as villagers listen in shock. Ayoka runs through a dense forest at twilight, pursued by shadowy figures. Her glowing symbol faintly lights her. Ayoka sits cross-legged on a mat, surrounded by ghostly, translucent figures of ancestors. Their expressions range from stern to compassionate. Ayoka stands at the edge of a raging river, her hands glowing as she attempts to part the waters under the watchful eyes of a divine eagle-perched group of villagers huddled together, pointing at Ayoka from a distance, their faces filled with fear and suspicion. A spiritual leader in ornate attire glares at Ayoka from his shrine, his face twisted with envy and anger. Ayoka walks through a crowded market, ignored and shunned by villagers who give her wary glances. Ayoka discovers an ancient shrine covered in vines, glowing faintly with divine energy. Ayoka sings a haunting melody at night, her voice carrying through the village. The moonlight highlights tears on her face. A young boy offers Ayoka a bowl of water, smiling warmly despite the disapproving glares of nearby villagers. The spiritual leader speaks to a gathering of villagers, spreading lies about Ayoka. His hands gesture dramatically under the light of a flickering fire. Ayoka stands in the village square, her glowing hands raised as she warns of an impending disaster. Villagers respond with mixed reactions of fear and doubt. Dark clouds gather ominously over the village, with Ayoka standing on a hilltop, her hair and clothes billowing in the wind. The glowing divine figure reappears to Ayoka, this time with a stern expression. Ayoka looks up, determined. Ayoka ventures deep into a mystical forest, surrounded by towering trees and glowing plants. Strange eyes watch her from the shadows. Ayoka faces a giant serpent, her glowing hands raised in defense as the serpent lunges toward her. Ayoka has a vision of her mother, a beautiful woman in flowing attire, standing in a field of golden light. Her expression is a mix of love, and Ayoka sees a vision of her father shaking hands with a dark figure in exchange for gold. Tears stream down her face as she watches. Ayoka stands tall on a rocky cliff, her glowing symbol shining brightly as she embraces her destiny. The village in chaos. Villagers run in panic as a sudden flood sweeps through the fields. Ayoka stands in the distance, conflicted. The envious spiritual leader falls to his knees in his shrine, his face filled with despair as his own powers fail him. Ayoka stands before a council of glowing divine figures, their expressions grave as they deliberate her fate. Ayoka places her glowing hands on a sick child, who smiles as their health is miraculously restored. A small group of villagers approach Ayoka with offerings of food and flowers, their faces showing cautious hope. Ayoka stands atop a hill, her glowing hands raised as she tries to calm a massive flood threatening the village. Ayoka confronts her father in his hut, her eyes glowing with divine energy as he cowers in guilt. A glowing spirit places a hand on Ayoka's head, filling her with renewed strength and purpose. The once envious spiritual leader bows before Ayoka, offering her a sacred artifact in reconciliation. Villagers work together to repair flood-damaged homes, with Ayoka guiding them and providing divine aid. Ayoka has a vision of her mother smiling proudly, surrounded by golden light. Ayoka stands in the village square, her glowing symbol projected into the sky, as villagers gather around her in awe. The banished shadows. Prompt, Ayoka banishes the dark spirits haunting the village, her glowing energy forming a protective barrier around the people. The village celebrates Ayoka's heroism with a vibrant festival featuring dancing, music, and colorful lanterns. Ayoka sits on a ceremonial stool in the village square, surrounded by elders and villagers who now look up to her as their leader. Ayoka faces a final divine trial, standing on a mountaintop as the sky swirls with celestial energy. The spirits of Ayoka's ancestors bow before her, their faces filled with pride. Tund kneels before Ayoka, tears in his eyes, as she forgives. The village flourishes under Ayoka's guidance, with lush fields, happy children, and harmonious community life. Ayoka sings a song of hope at sunrise, standing by the same river where her journey. The divine figures fade into the sky, their expressions satisfied as Ayoka watches them. Ayoka stands at the edge of the village, her glowing symbol faintly visible, as she watches over her people. A young girl approaches Ayoka, looking up to her with admiration as Ayoka smiles warmly. Ayoka places a flower at her mother's grave, her glowing symbol dimming as she finds. Ayoka walks through the village, now embraced by the people, with children running around her and elders nodding in respect. A serene village scene at sunrise with Ayoka standing in the doorway of her hut, watching her two children, Adetunji sharpening a wooden spear and Bose braiding palm fronds. Ayoka's face reflects quiet pride. Adetunji, a 10-year-old boy, crouches in a dense forest, aiming his bow at a deer. Sunlight streams through the canopy, highlighting his determined expression. Bose, an 8-year-old girl with deep, knowing eyes, sits cross-legged beside a sacred grove, surrounded by glowing fireflies. She holds a clay bowl filled with flowers as an offering to the gods. Adetunji and Abani laugh together by a calm riverbank, skipping stones across the water. Abani's reflection shimmers with faint light, hinting at her spiritual connection. Ayoka sits by the fire at night, gazing at her children with a mix of love and concern. The firelight casts shadows on her face, emphasizing her inner turmoil. Adetunji stands in the heart of a dense forest, looking over his shoulder with a cautious expression. The trees around him seem alive, their twisted roots and branches forming eerie shapes. Bose lies asleep on a mat inside their hut, glowing spirits surrounding her. Her face is serene as the spirits whisper ancient secrets. Adetunji and Bose free an injured antelope from a hunter's snare. Bose kneels beside the animal, her hands glowing faintly as she whispers a prayer, while Adetunji watches with a mixture of awe and confusion. Ayoka stands in front of her children, her face stern but loving. Her glowing hands are outstretched, emphasizing the gravity of her warning about their divine bloodline.